It's a terrifying reality South African citizens face every day. Hardcore criminals and robbers running rampant on our streets. But not all robbers come with balaclavas and guns. There's another kind, much more effective. And as their numbers grow, so do the threats they pose to us all. Imagine getting an SMS from your bank. Your account has been cleaned out. More than 80,000 rand stolen overnight. That's exactly what happened to Hanlie Venter from Roseacre. In June last year, she got a call from the bank.
They said to me now, lots of money went out on the 31st of May. So I said to them, but then it's fraud because I didn't use any money from the credit card.
The money was taken from her credit card, which she used as a savings account for her daughter.
The matric farewell will be on the 19th of September. So yeah, we're very excited.
But the news from the bank changed all that. Were you very worried at that time?
I was a little bit worried, but I thought it would be being sorted out from the fraud department.
But her optimism turned to horror when the bank accused her of negligence and refused to refund her anything. The bank said she had used a one-time PIN or OTP to withdraw the funds. An OTP is a numeric code sent to customers to authorize the bank to release funds. But Venter's adamant she never received or sent an OTP. When the bank refused a refund, she turned to the Ombudsman for Banking Services. But they ruled in favor of the bank.
Somebody stole 80,000 rand from me, and the bank makes me feel like a criminal.
Well, Hanlie Venter and her family have been through a shocking ordeal in their dispute with the bank, but they're certainly not alone. Attorney Mark Haying specializes in legal matters arising from online banking and has done a lot of work in the information security industry. He's been assisting a number of bank clients who've been refused refunds. Is fraud when it comes to online banking becoming a bigger and bigger issue for you?
Absolutely. Internet banking fraud is now 55% of the fraud that actually occurs through our banks. And the figure that they came up with was 250 million rand is the loss suffered as a result of internet banking.
Haying says these figures come from data provided by the South African Banking Risk Information Centre and was recorded over a period of 8 months last year. Now, we've received numerous complaints regarding ABSA clients. Is that your finding?
There has been predominantly the matters that have been referred to our ABSA clients, but clearly there are other banks that have also, their clients have also been victim of these.
Rihanna Steyn is the current Banking Services Ombudsman. Her mandate is to investigate complaints by consumers against banks. It's a non-statutory body funded by South African banks. The name of ABSA seems to crop up regularly. Is that your finding as well with the cases coming in here?
Yes, I think you'll see in our annual report that last year ABSA had more complaints than the other banks.
In fact, of roughly 1,450 complaints relating to online banking in 2018, 684 were about ABSA, with 381 involving Capitec and 161 involving FNB. These statistics tend to differ from year to year. Ulrich Janssen van Rensburg is head of fraud strategy at ABSA, and he says online fraud can only occur if data relating to a customer's account has been compromised. This suggests negligence on the side of the customers, and in such cases, the banks refuse refunds. Most of the cases that we've come across of online fraud where clients haven't been reimbursed or haven't been reimbursed fully are ABSA. So how do you explain that?
So as I mentioned again, our assessment processes are robust.
I'm talking about what the Ombuds says, is that most of the cases, recent cases, let me stipulate, are ABSA. You must have noticed this trend.
The trend is the global trend. It is a global trend.
No, I'm not talking about a global trend. I'm talking about here, South Africa, most of the cases where clients aren't reimbursed or not reimbursed fully and are put under pressure to accept offers sometimes are with ABSA. How do you explain that?
So So I would say most is a bit of a subjective response.
This isn't a personal view of mine, Ulrich, it's from the Ombud.
In 2018, in 80% of cases, the Ombud rejected the consumers' complaints and found in favour of the banks. This suggests that the customers are liable for the losses.
One of the grey areas is the question of liability. Who's taking the risk when you make online transactions, you or the bank?
The terms and conditions in terms of which you agree to internet banking say that if your banking credentials are compromised, you are liable and responsible.
This means that the bank will hold you responsible even if you fall victim to fraud. It happened to this woman, who we'll call Summer. She's been an ABSA client for decades and has asked us to hide her identity because she's fearful that her relationship with ABSA could be compromised.
My cell phone was off for a few days and I thought it was lack of signal. But when I realised it wasn't, I went to the Vodacom shop and asked them to check it out and investigate. And that's when they told me the SIM card was swapped and my contract was cancelled.
On advice from the shop assistant, she rushed to the bank, only to find that her credit card had been maxed out to the tune of nearly 90,000 rand. The hackers had also applied on her behalf for a personal loan that was approved but not yet paid out.
Well, I was so shocked because how could ABSA allow all these things when they know, I mean, how could they allow it?
But she was in for a bigger shock. The bank refused to accept any liability.
My money disappeared from my banking account and ABSA accused me of negligence and basically saying I stole my own money.
This man, who we'll call Winter, also fell victim to a fraudulent SIM swap and lost more than R500,000 rand.
What was the attitude of the bank? Was there no acceptance that this was fraud, which you hadn't perpetrated?
Ja, hulle het gesê dit is bedrog gewees, maar hulle was hulle hande in onskuld oor dit. Het was verskriklik traumaties. Jy weet, 'n mens moes mediese onkostes aangaan, want die mense het vreeslik depressief geraak.
I really felt so betrayed by my own bank.
In another case, hackers transferred 2.2 million rand in 85 transactions from a client's account. The bank has so far refused to refund her.
Clients, sometimes elderly, who've lost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of rand, and you haven't been willing to compensate them fully.
Based on the merit of those cases, on an individual basis, we have assessed all the facts. We have also what we refer to as, in our robust assessment process, a system audit trail. The system audit trail tracks all the activity on the customer's profile.
Sorry, it may be robust, but it's not compassionate.
In some cases, the bank does offer reimbursement. In Summer and Winter's cases, ABSA offered 50%. However, Hanley was only offered 5,000 rand of the more than 80,000 rand that was stolen.
In certain cases, where we see that to an extent we could have recovered some of the funds, in other words, yes, the customer was at fault, and let's say he lost 100,000, and we believe that there's a certain amount of that 100,000 within reasonable time we could have recovered. We would honour that obligation and respond and refund those customers.
However, the refund is then accompanied by a non-disclosure agreement.
Why do you gag your clients, tell them not to speak to the media? And we've had to interview a couple of them with their identity hidden, like they're criminals.
If it's considered a gag, I think that's harsh. In cases where we provide the customer an offer letter of a refund or a reimbursement, as we call it, we ask the customer not to disclose the information because the customer does not have all the facts, and the customer is not necessarily afraid with all the content on the decision that's been made.
A number of your clients say that they were left feeling like the criminals themselves.
Good. If customers feel that it's not sufficient and they don't understand how it occurred, then we need to get closer to those customers and unpack it.
You need to get closer to them, but I'm saying to you they didn't feel close to you at all, and they felt like criminals. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay. I can tell you now, the last thing we want to do is treat our customers like aliens or criminals in this case.
In many instances, the consumer is hampered by a lack of understanding of the terms and conditions they have to sign up to when they enroll for online banking services. A 2018 diagnostic report by the World Bank about South African banks found that some of the stipulations about risk and liabilities could be deemed unfair to consumers. This report states several banks' terms and conditions contain broad exclusions from liability in relation to matters including their processes, systems, or data breaches. Such an exclusion shifts more of the risk onto the customer in circumstances where he or she would be significantly less well placed to mitigate it. A further problem is that the Ombudsman only examines the two versions of events submitted by the complainant and bank, and doesn't investigate or call expert witnesses. So if both bank and Ombudsman rule against a consumer, their only recourse would be taking the bank to court.
One aspect that complicates the matter is that there hasn't been a court case between a bank and a client to decide where the liability should fall.
This means that there are no clear legal guidelines to establish liability in complex online banking fraud cases.
You know, once we have our first case, when there's case law, when there's precedent, we can follow that. We haven't had a single case in this country. And of course, our body, you know, which is alternative dispute resolution, where the alternative to the court is not the right place to set a precedent.
A future court case may bring clarity about liability in cases of online banking. But the fact remains that online banking comes with some risk.